Ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome to Gashi Skyman TV, the tallest man in Black Africa. For those of us who follows the geopolitics, you realize that William Samoei Ruto is a man on a mission. If you have been listening to William Samoei Ruto, he doesn't have kind words for the Western nations. If you listen to him, he is taking the path of Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Bokassa, and many other leaders who were gone. In South Africa, when he was addressing African Parliament, he for sure rallied the African countries against the exploitation and manipulation of the Western nation. He was given a standing ovation by the members of Parliament. His Pan-African move has caught the Western nations, and they are very, very keen when anytime he is addressing African nations. When in South Africa, he told the world that anytime the Western nations are dealing with Africans, lazima wazungumze kama watu who are speaking on equal footing, on equal terms. And mgala muwe na haki umpe. Hapa nakubaliana naye kwamba hakuna wakati ambapo unaweza ukawa na viongozi zaidi ya 51, the 51 African countries, going to listen to one person, and there's no time for any discussion. And wakati mwingine utaona kwamba wanaigizwa ndani ya basi, ndani ya daladala, ndani ya matatu, and it doesn't make much sense. And this is humiliating, if you ask me. So William Samoei Ruto said that anytime that any Western leaders from developed countries like United States, Britain, Prime Minister, and many others, lazima watatuma Troika is going to represent them, and maybe other 5 or 6 representatives. Again, we saw him the other day saying that he is not going to work with the dollar when it comes to importation of oil. So he had a deal whereby he was going to work, or he's actually working with, is it Kuwait, whereby the local currency will be used to clear the bills, and it is taking 6 months to clear the bills, so they have the opportunity, instead of taking or instead of using the scarce dollars. And this one caught the attention also of Britain and US. Again, yesterday, he said that intra-African trade should be using dollars. It should not be using dollars. They should be using local currency. There's no way they can depend on dollar. Dollar is scarce, and the more scarce a currency is, the more expensive it is. So he said that Africa, a time has come for Africa to be trading using their currency, and there are about to be consequences. When he said this, I believe the American must have been rattled, because unajua wakati Waswahili wanasema kwamba mjinga kirevuka mwerevu na kuwa mashakani. This is what is happening. What William Samoei Ruto is doing, he is involving himself with the trade wars. In fact, he's coming very fast. And I'm just looking at him, and I'm wondering whether he is aware of the likely consequences that have befallen people like Gaddafi, people like Magufuli. Unajua Magufuli ni mtu ambaye alijitokeza na kupiga masuala yote ambayo yalikuwa yanaendelezwa na utawala wa wazungu. Museveni the same, but Museveni is wise enough. He doesn't talk much like William Samoei Ruto, but he acts. His action speaks louder than words. Like yesterday, he signed that law that outlaws gayism and lesbianism, which was a good move. So he did not even shout when he was signing it. So what are the various consequences that can befall William Samoei Ruto if he continue with this move, if he continue campaigning against the Western nation? The first thing, in my view, is that they are likely to make him a one-term president. A one-term president means that he will go all the way up to 2027, But what I know is that there's no way you can become a president in Africa, especially in Kenya, without the support of the Western nations. Ukweli usemo ni kwamba he was installed by the Western nations, and because the Western nations were very, very uncomfortable with Raila Amolo Odinga. You know, Raila Amolo Odinga is an independent thinker, and it is not easy to manipulate Raila Amolo Odinga. So they instilled William Samoei Ruto. So if you're doing this channel for the first time, I ask you to take just 1 second and like this video, and please watch this video to the end. So the other thing is that they are likely to sabotage his government. Hawa ni watu ambao wanaweza kuhakikisha kwamba his government doesn't operate smoothly, and they have the powers, they have the money, they have the might. Even when it comes to trade deals, Kenya may miss so many opportunities because they are not happy with what William Samoei Ruto is saying. Again, I can see the Western powers infiltrating his government. Indeed, don't be surprised kupata some of his cabinets wakitumua kama vibaraka wa the Western nations. They are capable of planting. This one happened during Jomo Kenyatta's time. Is it Mackenzie? Is it Mackenzie? Somebody like Bruce Mackenzie, somebody like that, who was planted by the Western nations. So kile ambacho tunaona ni kwamba kwa sababu hata jana we saw him talking nicely with the Foreign Affairs Minister of Russia. You know, Russia and America are not in good terms. So when you look at William Samoei Ruto, he is actually antagonizing the Western nations. And they are likely to infiltrate him. They are likely to infiltrate his government. They are likely to infiltrate all sectors of his government. And when this happens, they'll be getting all the information about the government. Indeed, they can interfere with smooth operation of his government. These are very, very dangerous people. Again, they can hack the systems, like it happened during Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's term, when the Chinese government hacked the NIS, the Office of the President, the Foreign Affairs. They hacked almost everything. All the crucial ministries were hacked by the Chinese. So do you think that the West are just going to sit and watch as their trade being interfered with? Kwa sababu sasa kama kumtoa Siba, kumnyang'anya Siba mnofu wa nyama ama jibwa hatari, unajaribu kulinyang'anya mnofu wa nyama, be sure that there is bound to be repercussions. Again, Kenya, as I've said, will be discriminated when it comes to trade opportunities. You can see that some of these countries, like now Uganda, maybe favored Tanzania, Ethiopia, and I believe these people are likely to give alternatives. Because when you look at the Western nations, what comes first is their interest. Indeed, they don't care much about other people's interest. Their interest comes first. It is me, myself, and I. The others, they don't care so much whether you support them or not. As long as America is gaining, or mzungu lazima anufaike. Now, there's no way, even whatever they give, even the aids that they give to African countries, they do it because they get something. Jambo lingine ni kwamba these people are likely to sponsor rebellion within the government, and it will make it very, very difficult for William Samoei Ruto to operate, because when you face rebellion, it becomes very, very difficult for you to govern. So they can easily make his government ungovernable. I strongly believe that some of these Taga guys were sponsored by the Western nations. That is why there was serious rebellion in Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's government. I believe that they were not just working in vain. They must have been getting a lot of money, and that is why all this was meant to ensure that Raila Amolo Odinga does not become the president. So money, pesa hubomoa milima, pesa huvuja milima. Na unapoangalia utaona kwamba if the Western nations decide now to sponsor rebellion in this government, na most likely they are likely to use the Kikuyus, because the Kikuyus' love for money is on another level. Na jambo hili likitokea, utaona kwamba anaweza kujipata katika hali gumu sana. Again, they can also decide to start sponsoring the opposition. They fund the opposition, and he is likely to have serious opposition. And when you look at William Samoei Ruto today, he is finding it rough. Indeed, the grapevine has it that he has accepted Azimio's terms, minimum terms so that the talk can continue, the dialogue can continue, the bipartisan talk can continue. All the 4 conditions, not opening the servers, preserving the presidential servers, running the cost of living, interfering, maybe trying to remove some levies. He has accepted because he is aware that the West can decide now to start financing the opposition and sponsoring them. And when you look at William Samoei Ruto, you realize that what he's saying, if you ask me, is beneficial to African. But I think, if you ask me, he is going to antagonize the Western nation. I think and I believe it is just a matter of time before these people start reacting openly. They can react without even showing, but mara nyingi tumewahi kuona yale ambayo yamewahi kuwapata watu ambao wamewahi kuwapiga, and there's nothing more serious and more risky than when you are fighting these people, because for one, they are mighty and they have a lot of interest in Africa. Kwa sababu unapoangalia Africa is the poorest but richest continent in the world. Maybe you don't understand what I mean by that. The poorest but the richest. In terms of resources, we are the richest. But when it comes to development, we have been left so much behind because of exploitation. So when you look at William Samoei Ruto, I think he needs to calm down, and he needs to maybe to be a bit careful and look at the way the Americans are likely to react, and maybe because he's the only one who is talking. Na ukiangalia viongozi wengine wa Afrika hawazungumzii hili swala, wananyamaza. Wanajua vizuri sana America does not mean well for this country, but they are not talking. If you ask Paul Kagame, he knows very well, but he's not talking about it, because even some of the civil wars that you see in Africa are funded by the Western nations, because of maybe they want to market their guns, their weaponries and such things. So it's just a matter of time. We can only wait and see. But I can assure you that America is just not going to sit and watch. Big brother, tunakutazama. This is your host, Gashi Skyman, the tallest man in Black Africa. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.